It was on January 23, in 1960, that humans reached another milestone. In a device that is called a bathyscaphe, two fellows descended 35,810 feet in the Pacific Ocean into Challenger Deep, which is part of the Marianas Trench near the island of Guam. This is the deepest point known to exist on Earth. In March of 2012, it could be said that the record was broken by Titanic film director James Cameron. He made the same dive to the same depth, but it was a solo dive, so he claimed that it was a new record. I will leave that for you to decide. Speaking of the Titanic, I was chatting with Robert Ballard, who is the fellow who found the sunken ship, and he told me about a shift in his thinking that he had while making a similar deep-sea dive. Ballard was in a similar bathyscaphe with a few graduate students. They had descended for a few hours and now were deep in the blackness of inner space. My face was pressed against the window, and I called for the grad students to come join me, said Ballard. He went on to explain that the young grad students were too busy looking at the monitor to look out the window. It was then that Ballard realized that he was dealing with a whole different generation mindset. That is, 95% of the cost of the bathyscaphe was to protect humans, but these young humans were more interested in looking at the monitor than out the window. There was no need to send humans to the bottom of the ocean, when robots could go for much less, see more, stay down longer, and come at much less risk to human life. In other words, robots would allow us to do more for less. Perhaps this is why the planet Mars is the only known planet in the entire universe that is inhabited exclusively by robots. This change in Ballard's outlook on exploration is what allowed him to find the Titanic. He assembled a fleet of remote-controllable submersibles. This allowed him to start looking where he knew that Titanic was not. He could start looking downstream of where he thought it was. He could look for the debris field that came from the plume of bits and pieces of the ship as it sank. Each piece would then be used to indicate where to look next. Lighter pieces would be farther downstream and act as indicators as to where to look next. These pointed the way to the wreck herself, and that is how he found the Titanic on the seafloor. When you change the way that you look at something, it changes what you see, because you do not see with your eyes, you see with your mind. Encourage others.